So over the weekend, I talked about the fact that Donald Trump's former lawyer, Kenneth Chesebro, is not only cooperating in multiple different state investigations, but according to newly obtained audio, emails, and memos from Chesebro with his cooperation in Michigan, he's pretty much thrown Donald Trump directly under that bus and given up all of the information about how the plan was in motion and being executed with regard to the fake electors and getting the slate of fake electors to Mike Pence on January 6th. They had a whole scheme. I talked about it again over this weekend. If you haven't seen it yet, please go watch that. But here's what I want to expand upon with that story. Because Chesbro, of course, was indicted alongside Donald Trump and, a bunch of other folks in Georgia. Chesbro, right before, like literally the day before his trial was going to begin, he opted for a plea deal with Fulton County District Attorney Fonny Willis. Now, as part of that plea deal, he has to, as it says here, come clean about his role in the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results, including the fake elector scheme. So, because he's already given up all the goods to Michigan and Wisconsin, there's no reason why Fonny Willis is not also going to have that same information. But what happened in Michigan and Wisconsin is not necessarily linked to the charges that he is facing in Georgia. Those are Georgia state charges, not federal charges. So you're not bringing in all this extraneous material to try to prove the Rico in Georgia. Now, it'll help. Don't get me wrong. And she will bring it up because it is relevant, but it's not what it is for like the federal case. Jack Smith is loving all this. This is absolutely going to help him. In Georgia, though, Chesbro was also one of the guys involved in the efforts to get those 11,000 votes, right? To switch the Georgia electors. So as much as he knows about the Michigan and Wisconsin thing, which of course has now been made public, he knows the same amount of stuff over here in Georgia. Now, Fonny Willis, unlike what we're seeing coming out of Michigan, because multiple leaks have happened from the Michigan investigation, which honestly is probably not a very good thing. But you get somebody somewhere along that chain that is leaking stuff to the press, and that just gives more fodder to people on the right. But in Georgia, that's not happening, and that's a good thing. It's a good sign that we are not getting these kinds of leaks out of the state of Georgia, because Chesbro has now been a cooperating witness in Georgia for 2.5 months. And if you think for a second that Fonny Willis hasn't already sat him down in a room, lawyers present obviously, and gotten this same kind of information about Georgia, then you are kidding yourselves. She has absolutely been doing her homework. Out of all the people prosecuting Donald Trump right now, I think Fonny Willis is probably the best. That's not even a close call either. Jack Smith is doing a phenomenal job. Fonny Willis is running laps around Jack Smith, though. She's keeping it tight-lipped. She's keeping it in-house. She's avoiding any leaks. She has not revealed anything that any of the cooperating witnesses have given her. She's keeping it very close to the chest. And if Chesbro knows as much about Georgia as he does about Michigan and Wisconsin and the other states, then this guy, and this guy alone, might be the one to send Donald Trump to a Georgia state prison. But he's not alone, is he? He's also got cooperating witnesses including Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, the other guy who was lower on that ladder, whose name I keep forgetting, and I apologize for that. But when you take what Chesbro knows, add in what Sidney Powell knows, because she's the one who paid to send the people down there to Coffee County to steal the voting machine data. Add in what Jenna Ellis, who was working with Rudy Giuliani, add what she knows. And yeah, I think it's a pretty safe bet that Fonny Willis, when it comes time to have Trump's trial, she's going to knock it totally out of the park. And a little bit of information here. If the other trials that Trump has, like the one in front of Judge Chutkan, the one in front of Judge Cannon, if those continue to get delayed, Willis actually would be clear to move up her trial date. So instead of doing it in September, she may go earlier if everybody else has to push theirs back. So keep an eye on that, because that could certainly change the game for next year's election.